All right, it's time for another unboxing. Well, actually, I unboxed it once and I realized it rambled on for too long as I do, and I wanted to record it. And so we're just going to try to get right into it. This is the SBDY075 Seiko Prospex. Um, I guess you can call it the Green Safari Street Tuna version. This is not a new watch. It's definitely something that came out at least 2 years ago. This right now it's about mid, past mid, going towards the end of wow, September already, and of 2023. And this came out sometime in 2021, and I believe this may have come out slightly before then as well. The Willard, like when they started to reduce these. Um, well, they introduced the limited edition one first, and pretty much only, and then they started several months. I think it was at least half a year later. Then they finally released these smaller versions that are basically about 42 millimeters or so in case size, from I would say from 9 to 3. And came up with this greenish dial and a black one first, and then since then, over time, the last couple of years, they've added and had special editions and all sorts of things. Of course, what Seiko does. But yeah, and I'm pretty sure this came out. These street tunas, the automatic ones that are about 43 millimeters. They came out with like a black. Most of them were black coated. There was a gray one, which is pretty cool. My friend has that. I think Average Bros, Mark Alvarez from his channel. He's probably one of the first ones I saw that had one. And they come up with some other ones. I think there was a tan colored one of that and some others. But anyways, then this later they came up with finally some ones that had the stainless steel body or case and shroud. Which I prefer over the black myself, or even I think that gray one was, if it wasn't black, it was actually more of a gunmetal, but still pretty dark metal. But I always like the tuna case, that kind of style with the stainless steel. Anyways, we're not going to do unboxing because you know what Seiko boxes are. There's nothing special about those. So it's just going to be more like kind of a new watch reveal, first look impressions. And overall, I've always liked this. I had the blue one of this before. I don't remember the reference. Since this is 75, that might be SBDY073. And those are the JDM references as far as I'm aware. There is I believe, something else that begins with an SRPF, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't remember what the equivalent would be of this. But from what I know, zoom in here real quick. The JDM version actually says made in Japan down here, versus the other ones, I don't think they do. So I don't know. I think that's kind of neat to have it written in there. But anyways, yeah, I did have the blue one. That was really cool. I went to a couple of these 43 millimeters street tunas, or this size. I don't know what anyone has officially called this. I think they want to say baby tuna, but if you go back, what they used to call the baby tuna, maybe they still do, was the monster tuna, which they should just call it monster tuna. It's like a monster case with a shroud. That was kind of dubbed the mini tuna, I believe, back, or baby tuna, something back in the days. And it still might be, but that really wasn't a tuna. That just had a shroud. I would just have called that a monster tuna because it was mostly a monster, bezel and the markers and everything. But anyways, these have been very cool. They are great wearable size, 43, and I'm going to show you a comparison versus 42 here. What do you think? Which one looks bigger? Right, this is supposed to be bigger, but this is a 43 round. Essentially, it might be slightly more, but compared to this, even though this is supposed to be 42, the way the case is designed, it's still very comfortable. you can definitely make it seem bigger. And I used to compare the, like say the full-size turtle, which is about 44 or 45 millimeters, right, to the full-size tuna, which was about 47-ish, which I used to have as well. And that's with those two comparisons, that tuna still looks smaller than the turtle, and these were great. I'd say also the series of tunas is, I think, pretty great value still within the Seiko Prospex lineup. It's under $500, I think, for most models, unless you get like a special, like a limited edition, such as the Zimby that I had before. I believe that was my last one that I had of this, urban or street tuna, the 43 baby tuna, whatever, with the white dial. I think it was white, kind of whitish. Actually, I think it's actually considered a light gray with the orange accent. That was pretty cool, but that wasn't exactly me. I like the colors, and it just seemed kind of fun to do. But then in the end, it's like, well, that's not really what I was looking for with this tuna style. And anyways, I went through a lot of iterations of tunas. This full size Seiko SKX mods. Technically that monster mini tuna thing or baby tuna thing that I mentioned. I used to have one, but it was that was kind of bought by mistake. I thought that could be a proper substitute or so for a tuna, and it wasn't. So anyways, I never kept that. And the bezels on those are particularly hard to rotate. I'm not going to get into it. And then this is how it looks like actually next to a 40. So even this should be smaller than the Willard there, but you can see this. It's definitely, even as 43, it definitely looks smaller. Kind of weird, huh? It's always surprises me, especially when I open up the box, when I first see this one of these in the metal. It's like surprisingly even more smaller and compact visually when you haven't even gotten on the wrist yet, but just by looking at it in the box, and when you just hold it, it's like, whoa, is this the right size? I didn't get the smaller, I forget what it is, but there's a smaller solar quartz version that's, I think, 39, 38. No, I think it's under 39. I think it's at least 38 or smaller. Yeah, but yeah, this is generally a 43 millimeter, and I think they're only about 13 millimeters thick all the way from case back to the top, which I would say would be the bezel, because you can see the crystal sort of slightly sunken in. It's kind of a feature that sometimes like Seiko does. I'm thinking of the SKX for one thing. They're kind of like that, and they have like a beveled edge that kind of goes down there. But anyways, I wanted to get this. Hopefully I can keep this shorter this time. Oh, yeah. I wanted to basically, I've been consolidating my collection down, kind of really thinking hard about it, and in that process, selling some, and in some cases, while I'm selling some or I'm trying to maybe fuse two designs into one in certain cases, and it might be for this, because I really like the green of the Willard here. This is one of the original two colors that came out, and that always stuck to me, and I finally got it, and it's really nice. In fact, I bought this strap specifically to match with this. It just works really well, I think. Let's see if we can get the light down a little bit more. Whoops. More to the back or side. It's just not so glaring. Yeah, and it's just a good size too. I couldn't do the full one. I probably could, but I didn't want to. I like the size at the 42-ish range, and but I don't want to. I also had a Seiko Tuna, the blue one, SBDY0. This is SBDC111. The blue Tuna is SBDY043, if I'm not mistaken. And to keep a Tuna design, but and I could wear the full size at about 47 millimeters, and I have. But I do think this is actually a more perfect size. It doesn't feel too. Sometimes that can feel a little bit more than I want on wrists, I suppose. It's not a bad thing. It's just the look that the Tunas have. But this definitely is much more manageable, as you can see on my 7-inch wrist, and I showed this plenty of times with the other variant colors that I've gotten this this watch in before. Yeah, these just work great, and yeah, I wish they would make more of these. They've put these kind of on pause a bit. I suppose the last one would be maybe the Arctic Save the Ocean series. They had the penguin, which I also had at one point, and then they had another penguin but with a darker dial. Instead of the penguin feet, they have you can see the silhouettes of a bunch of penguins. I guess they would be swimming perhaps in the Arctic waters, right? And then the Zimby that I had. So it's been a while though. When was that Zimby? Probably sometime in 22. But I haven't really seen anything since then. But anyways, I like the color. But I was thinking, well, if they only made this in a Tuna or something, even like an MM200, right? I really do like this green. I like this sort of military olive, sort of drab sort of color in a Tuna. And then I totally forgot that this existed. And then I looked it up again. I said, you know what? I bet you this diode would look pretty close to, the overall look. Besides, of course, this gold, or sometimes it looks more like a matte tan color. But with the exception of this, the bezel and the dial should look fairly similar in feel to this. And so there we go. You can see I'm pretty confident that the dial at least is the same kind of green that's between these two. Obviously this has more of a patina, a warmer look to the loom, but that's all right. I dig it. It kind of matches the kind of earthy tones anyways. Although it wouldn't have been bad if they went more straight, like more whitish, but I'm not mad. It looks good still, and it glows good. Surprisingly well for patina. Usually they tend to be weaker, but I found that it's actually pretty decent, as most Seiko looms should be, regardless of the color. And these do glow blue, which is pretty cool. Should have grown green. It could have, but I do like blue glowing things. So, but the only thing is the bezel is slightly different in shade, right? It's not, these two are different, and it's a different method. These have these kind of grooves on them. I don't know if you can see that. They're very fine. Maybe if I capture at certain angles or something. If you've seen these, they have like this bit of like a fine like groove pattern going all the way around, and it gives it's kind of a matte sheen, versus this is just a smooth flat aluminum insert. I don't know if you consider this aluminum. I feel that this might be some sort of engraved piece of steel instead, but anyways. And yeah, so there we go. I basically, well, this is gonna sell soon. I gotta get pics, and I did mod this with the NH35, which is basically a 4R35, the date movement, because the 6R35 that originally was in it was really erratic, but I'll sell these with it because yeah, I don't have any use for it. If anyone, whoever does end up buying it, I would suggest that they I'll put that in the description whenever I list this thing, that they should get this thing checked out, the 6R. They want to put it back into here, and it's likely that should be overhauled, like basically taken apart, cleaned, and relubed. And I do believe that will fix the consistency or inconsistency, the erratic behavior of the movement. Sometimes it shoots up and goes fast, sometimes it goes slow. It was a pain in the ass to regulate, and believe me, I've done a lot of regulation, and I've tried. This one could not be saved. It was just too all over the place. and I have had another 6R35 that I was able to regulate and get better, because out of the box it was it's my cappuccino dial 62 Moss kind of reissue thing that I had a little while back. Yeah, anyways, that one I got to be really accurate after I regulated it myself. But this one, yeah, no matter what I tried, it's just, yeah, there's definitely some issues, probably with the lubrication, which, at least what Spencer Klein says is generally the case, that when they start running that kind of weird and erratic, it's probably really bad or over lubrication of the parts. But anyways, enough about that. It's about this. And yeah, so I'm basically combining that tuna with that color, the willet, into this. I think it looks cool. And I think the fact that there isn't very many, if I can't even think of any other tuna design that has green that I'm aware of, but you know, Seiko has a lot of secret or you know, special editions that are for certain markets, and sometimes you just don't know it until you start kind of wandering and browsing around, and it's like, whoa, where this one? When was this? Yeah, but yeah, this is a basically should be a 2021 model. Hopefully, it's running good. I've already actually wound it up, set the time, everything, and actually just in case, a lot of watches that come in, not all, but some, if I feel they need to, I will demagnetize them at the start, but of course give it a full wind, because it's better when you do that. It's from what I've been told, but we'll see. I figure this is an older model, as well as, you know, it's traveled from across the seas. I got this from shopping in Japan. Around 400, it's decent. I think that's reasonable for this. And you know, with all that, who knows what it's passed through and, you know, picked up over the years. So anyways, I figured this would be safe to demagnetize first, so it should, at least that part of it shouldn't affect the accuracy and the performance if I clean up any magnetism that might be on the watch. The only thing I would say is that the bezel, when I got it, and I did record it, but I'm not going to get into it again. I'm trying to shorten this even by a little bit. Was really stiff turning. I mean, I haven't, usually these, you know, Seiko bezel, they just click over just fine. This is what I was sort of expecting, right? And all the other urban or street tunas I've owned, mini tunas, baby tunas, yeah, they've all had pretty similar Seiko feeling bezel action, and this one is generally smooth and not an issue, but this one was really tight, especially I would say when I started to get close. This part started to get closer to this end and this, so I just basically put a bunch of, sprayed in a lot of silicone lubricant. Nothing too heavy, but it should get into the cracks and hopefully work its way down to the gaskets. And it did definitely helped to loosen it up. I don't get the binding or the spot where it really gets tough. So for even up here, it started to do it a little bit just before I started recording. I was just kind of playing around and testing it out to see how it is now. And now it's much better. And as we'll go into it, I would say the alignment overall is pretty good. The bezel seems to be lining up with the chaptering, and then that kind of follows imaginary line going through that through the center of the 12 o'clock pip, and that seems to be pretty good. And then you can also kind of cross-check with, like, say, those smaller minute markings to the side, how they are in relationship to the 12 o'clock marker. Does it feel like they're more to one side or the other? It looks fairly balanced to me. Upon checking the rest of them, maybe down here, some spots seems like they might be a little bit off, but it's not that much, and this is the most important one, and as long as the other ones are fairly close to where they should be in alignment, then that's fine. But yeah, I think this color is really nice. Again, I don't see too many. I can't think of any other Tuna style watches that utilize green much. Generally blue. I've seen a red. Oh, you know, there might possibly, when they had the Gundam versions of the full size, I think they were at least 1,000 meter with the ceramic shrouds. They had like the Gundam versions of I don't know what the bad guys are called, but they usually have a red. They have like this cycloptic eye usually for those robot suits, armored suits. But there's like a red one, and I believe there was a green one. Like it's kind of a dark green. So yeah, maybe they did do one other one in a Tuna style in green. But other than that, yeah, kind of rare. And I think it looks kind of cool. Don't see that color with this design often, and it's close enough to this in terms of the greenish tones. And yeah, I think this will look pretty good on this strap later too. And it gives it I like how like this kind of green and that vibe that you get, especially if you pair it with a particular strap. It gives it almost a non-diver feel. Like it makes it into more of a, I guess, sort of a field watch look. But I think that's all I got to say about this for now. I'll give it a, it's caught in today. I'm gonna give it a test run tomorrow at work. See how it does. Shouldn't be too hasty to make any adjustment to the movement. You know, I gotta, unless it's really off, where it's irritatingly not accurate to me, then I will have to jump in and see what I can do to regulate it, which I should be able to. I've done that plenty of times, but we'll see. If it's not that bad, let it run for a bit and see where it may settle to, and then adjust if needed. So hopefully not. If it is, not by much. So here is another look at this. Yeah, I mean, I don't always get, I'm not definitely not about finding the latest trending watches or something. I like to often go back to some things that are not new, you know. Like this one took me basically 2 years to finally get to this one, even though, you know, I wanted one at the beginning, but I just didn't pull the trigger. I had other things I wanted, but this was always on my mind. But now that I tried it, I do like it, but I have to make some changes. So sorry. Hope you find a new home. But it was running great with the 4R35 movement, or the equivalent, the NH35. This is a great watch too, very retro. This is relatively new too, but it's kind of a old design, that colorway that they did way back. I'm kind of glad I am glad they brought it back. But this might possibly be going too. I'm really trying to reduce the number of watches. So we'll see how that goes. But this is a new one, a new old one, but still new, right out of the box. And yeah, thanks for watching, and enjoy your watches.